Alright, so in this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to get that 850 perfect credit score. Now, before I get into it, I want to preface this video by saying getting an 850 credit score is not needed. It's not necessary. You're going to get the same treatment from lenders if you have a credit score of 760 plus. That said, it's always good to shoot for 850, to aspire to have that 850. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you the list of all the requirements that you need to tick off to be able to get that 850 credit score. With that said, let's jump right into it. Starting off with payment history, which accounts for 35% of your credit score, this one is pretty simple. You have to have 0 derogatory indicators on your credit report. It's non-negotiable. No 30-day late payments that happened 6 years ago, no 60-day late payments or 90-day late payments, obviously no charge-offs, no collection accounts. Now, I do want to say, if you have a 30-day late payment that is 5 to 6 years old, it is possible for you to get a credit score that is in the 800s if you're maximizing every other metric, but it is not possible for you to have the perfect 850 credit score. We're not talking about 820, 830 here. We're talking about 850. Therefore, 0 derogatory indicators on your credit report. Moving on to number 2, 30% amount owed category. Few metrics I want to talk about in this category. Number 1, you want to have 1 to 9% utilization ratio on each one of your credit cards, as well as aggregate utilization ratio. You don't want to have 0% because in FICO scoring, there is a known score penalty for having all of your credit cards report a $0 balance. The penalty is anywhere between 5 to 20 points depending on other factors on your credit report. So you don't want to have 0% utilization ratio. You want to have at least one of your credit cards report a small balance that is equal to anywhere between 1 to 9% of that credit card's credit limit, as well as your aggregate credit limit. And also, you don't want to have your utilization ratio any higher than 9% because you're not going to be maximizing the utilization ratio metric, which is a very important metric inside the 30% amounts owed category. The second metric I want to talk about is accounts with balances. Now, this metric is often forgotten when people talk about the 30% amounts owed category. A lot of even so-called credit experts think the 30%, the entire category is utilization ratio. It's not correct. Would it be correct to say utilization ratio is the most important metric inside the 30% category? Yes, but it is not the entire category. There are other metrics that you need to take care of if you want to have the perfect credit score. One of those is you want to have less than 4 accounts with balances. That includes loans, that includes credit cards, student loans, mortgages, all types of revolving accounts, home equity lines of credit, whatever accounts you have on your credit report, you want to have less than 4 have a balance of greater than 0. All right? So that's number 2, the second metric inside the category. Number 3 is something we call installment utilization. Now, a lot of you guys know about the utilization ratio, or the so-called revolving utilization, which is the ratio between the balances to the credit limits on your credit cards. Some of you may know installment utilization as well. It is also a metric inside the 30% amounts owed category. Basically, it's very similar to revolving utilization. The only difference is it applies to installment loans, right? So if you take out an auto loan that has an original balance of $40,000 and you've paid off $20,000 of it, you're 50% utilized on that loan. Now, based on the data points that I have seen on my FICO communities and talking to different people, the ideal installment utilization ratio to get that 850 perfect credit score is 9% or less, okay? Now, is it possible for you to get the 850 credit score if your installment utilization is higher than 9%? Yes, I have seen it before, but to be safe, we're gonna call it 9% installment utilization. That's why I put a question mark in front of it. The thing that we do know for sure is you have to have at least one open installment account to have a shot at that 850 credit score. Some of you guys may have realized when you pay off a loan, if it was the only open installment account on your credit report and you pay it off, your credit score actually goes down, right? That's why you want to have at least one open installment account, and in order to give yourself the best chance of getting to 850 credit score, you want to have the utilization ratio on your installment account be around 9%, But like I said, this one is kind of a gray area. It is possible for you to get that 850 credit score, even if your installment utilization is higher than 9%. But I just wanted to make sure that I mention it. Moving on to number 3, 15% credit history. Two things I want to mention here. Number 1, your oldest account has to be around 20 years old. Okay. Now, if you read the MyFICO communities and if you read the FICO white papers, most FICO high achievers have the age of their oldest account is around 25 years. Okay. But we know once the age of your oldest account hits 20 years, then you get close to maximizing the points in the 15% credit history category, and therefore you have a shot at the 850 perfect credit score. That said, you need to have 20 years for your oldest account. You also have to have anywhere between 9 to 10 years for the average age of all your accounts. Okay, I have seen a data point on MyFICO communities again of maximizing the points in the average age of accounts category once the average age hits about 90 months, okay? The FICO algorithms, they work in months, they don't work in years. So I have seen data points pointing to 90 months being the point where you're maximizing the points that you're earning for the average age of accounts category. 90 months comes to what? 7.5 years. But again, we're gonna be conservative here. We're gonna call it 9 to 10 years average age of all your accounts. Number 4, 10% new credit. Okay, this one is pretty simple as well. There's a metric that is pretty tricky in here. A lot of people don't mention it. We're going to mention this one. The one that is straightforward in this category, no credit inquiries in the last 12 months. Now, I want to mention something here. Inquiries will be cosmetically present on your credit report for 24 months, but they will only affect your credit score for the first 12 months that they're on there. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's why I said 12 months, not 24 months, because after 12 months, although they are still present on your credit report, they're not affecting your credit score. The algorithm is not taking them into consideration. Number 2, you also don't want to have any accounts open in the last 12 months without any credit inquiries, okay? Specifically, I'm talking about student loans here. If you're a student and your loans get dispersed, it's very possible that the lender did not pull a credit report, so you don't have a credit inquiry on your credit report, but you do have a new account, okay? You also don't want to have any of that. So no inquiries in the last 12 months and no accounts opened in the last 12 months, even without credit inquiries, okay? And finally, 10% credit mix. Now, this one is also a little bit tricky. Two things I want to mention here. Number 1, you want to have at least 4 accounts, okay? Because if you don't have 4 accounts, you're going to be in a category that we call thin file, okay? Basically, thin file means you have less than 4 accounts, which is going to put you on a different scorecard, which doesn't even have a maximum points of 850, okay? So you want to have at least 4 accounts. Out of those 4 accounts, you want to have a mix of installment and revolving accounts, okay? Now, here's a data point that comes straight from FICO. FICO high achievers, which FICO high achievers are people who have a credit score of 795 plus, have an average of 6 credit cards and 5 installment accounts. But like I said, it is not necessary for you to have 11 total accounts with 6 credit cards, 5 installment. It's not necessary, but it may help. Again, we don't know the exact algorithms, okay? What we do know is you don't want to be in the thin file category. You want to have at least 4 accounts total. And out of the 4 accounts that you have, you want to have both credit cards, which are revolving accounts, and you want to have loans, okay? Now, you can't go out there and just take out loans to maximize the 10% credit mix. It's going to happen organically over time. These are all the requirements that you need to tick off, the boxes that you need to tick off in order for you to have a chance at the 850 credit score. It's important for me to mention, credit scoring algorithms are very complex. They take into account multiple factors at once. So most times it's very difficult to say if you do A, how is it going to affect your credit score? Sometimes we can predict it with a high degree of accuracy, but most times you can't, okay? So what I'm trying to say is even if you do everything that I've told you in this video, it's possible for you to still not be at 850. Now, if you do everything that I've told you, you're going to have a killer credit score regardless. Even if it's not 850, you're probably going to have an 835 or something like that. At that point, if you're at that stage, you're going to need individualized credit advice, okay? You're going to need someone who has a deep knowledge of FICO scoring algorithms to look at your credit report and be like, hey, you're not maximizing this metric. This is what you need to do in order for you to have that 850 credit score. I tried to be as detailed as possible in a YouTube video, but there are many, many more metrics that are going to be taken into account by algorithms. But again, these are the baseline requirements. If you do these, even if you don't have an 850, you're going to have an 830, which is a killer credit score. With that said, I'm going to wrap up the video. If you have any thoughts, anything you want to say, please leave them in the comment section down below. And thanks for watching the video.